The more that I learned about space, the more I realized I don't know. While I was editing my last video on the moon, I stumbled across a word that I'd never heard before. Tutulemma, or Tutulemma. At first it sounded like some kind of puzzle, or maybe an ancient scroll or something. But it turns out to be one of the more beautiful ways that humans have tried to map out time, using nothing but the sun, some patience, and a camera. Unless you're an astronomer, you've probably never heard of an analemma either. It's that strange figure-8 loop that you see printed on the side of globes sometimes. You can usually find it out over the Pacific Ocean, nowhere near land. To many of us, it looks decorative, but it actually has more meaning than that. That figure-8 shape is actually the sun's position in our sky when you take a picture of it every day for a full year. It's a map of the relative motion between the sun and Earth, traced out by light. And that's where the story really starts. Because once you understand what an analemma is, you can then understand what makes a tutulemma an almost poetic creation. If Earth orbited the sun in a perfect circle, and it spun at a perfectly steady rate, then the sun would rise and fall in the exact same place every day. But our orbit is an ellipse, and it's stretched just enough that we move faster when we're closer to the sun, and slower when we're farther away. Add in Earth's 23.5 degree tilt, and the sun's daily position starts to wobble. That wobble, part from the tilt and part from the speed change, creates that figure-8 shape when plotted over time. One loop represents our summer, and the other represents our winter. The top touches the Tropic of Cancer, and the bottom, the Tropic of Capricorn. Together, they form a visual fingerprint of the seasons, an orbital signature that repeats endlessly year after year. But that's only part of it. The analemma also reveals something deeply human. It's our obsession with keeping time. You see, our clocks tick at a steady pace, relative to us. But the sun doesn't. Some days, solar noon arrives a few minutes early, and other days it arrives a few minutes late. And this mismatch is called the equation of time. In some sense, the analemma encodes the fact that the sun doesn't abide by our 24-hour measurement of a day. In other words, it's like the universe is telling us that it doesn't really care about our calendars. If you want to see this pattern for yourself, you can actually build one. All it takes is a camera, a tripod, and about a full year of discipline. You take a picture of the sun from the same place at the same solar time, anywhere from once a day to dozens of days spread out across the full year. And when you layer those photos, you'll start to see that luminous figure-8 shape start to appear. I like to think of this as art and poetry and astronomy all tied together. It's not really just a map of geography, it's almost a map of how light acts over some time. People have been doing this for decades, but the idea itself goes back way further, back to when map makers first started putting analemmas on globes. But here's where things get extraordinary. In 2006, a Turkish astrophotographer named Tunç Tezel decided to attempt something that no one else had done before. He aimed to capture a full analemma, but to capture a total solar eclipse during it. He spent over a year taking pictures from the Mediterranean coast at the same solar time, every day. And then on March 29, 2006, the moon crossed directly in front of the sun. That single darkened frame, right in the middle of his sequence, transformed the analemma into something totally new. A tutulemma. The word itself is a blend of two languages. Analemma, the ancient Greek word for support or base, referring to the sun's plotted positions, and tutula, the Turkish word for eclipse. Together they form tutulemma, literally an eclipse inside of an analemma. It's the only one of its kind ever made, and it didn't come from a major observatory or a billion-dollar satellite. It came from an amateur astrophotographer who had patience and vision. I think that's what grabbed me the most about this story. It's not so much about the pattern in the sky as it is about what it took to get the image. To make a tutulemma, you have to commit to a process that has no immediate reward. You spend a year taking photos that look identical, but you keep going anyway, and you hope that something eventually will emerge from it. If you're lucky to be there on the one day that the moon crosses perfectly in front of the sun, you catch this fleeting moment and a long arc of sunlight. In a strange way, this mirrors what being a scientist often feels like to me. Most of my days are routine, data collection, debugging software. Maybe there's some theoretical work, or I'll be reading papers on my field. As many of us know, it's easy for days to blur together sometimes. So when something catches my attention enough to sort of pull me out of that mental routine, it's really exciting for me. And that's what this Tutulemma represents to me. It's not just about the sun's path through our sky. It's about hidden surprises that wind up being the fuel for our imagination and curiosity. If you enjoyed this and you want to continue exploring with me, make sure you subscribe below. Heavy music, space science, and big ideas. Cheers.